People are getting notifications right now that their Medicare supplement plans in California are going up 20%. A lot of this is hitting in July. What's going on here? That's a huge jump after the past couple of years. We're going to talk about what it is, why it's happening, and what you can do about it. Let's get right into it. First, let's talk about what's happening. In California, to set the stage, you have three major carriers that dominate the Medicare supplement side. It's Blue Shield of California, United Health, and Anthem Blue Cross. And depending on where you live and what your age is, one will usually be better priced than another. Blue Shield of California is a dominant player. In fact, they're probably the biggest Medicare supplement carrier in California. It's different than other states, but in our state, they really are dominant. They had a $25 per month discount when you're new to Medicare long before the other carriers brought that on board. So they are huge out there because a lot of people, once they get on board a Medicare supplement, they love how it works. They never change. They never even reshop the market to see what's out there. So Blue Shield announced a rate increase for July of 2025, and it's a doozy. And it's not just Blue Shield. The other carriers are going to have to follow suit. We'll talk about that in the next section. But Blue Shield is such a big player that when they start sending out updates with rates, it's a big deal. We started picking up on this when people would email us, hey, I just got my rate increase in July. I'm going from $213 to $251 on a G plan with Blue Shield. That's a giant jump. And again, we're seeing up to 20% depending on where you live and what your age is. 20% in 1 year is a huge hit when usually we have just shy of 10% or even less in the last couple of years. And we'll get into that as to why. But that's the big thing. And we started getting more and more emails because all we do is run quotes all day long across the major carriers for people based on their age and their zip code. And we started noticing people are reaching out going, hey, my rate's going through the roof. My rate's going through starting July. All started to look the same. Different areas, they're all coming to us with the same rate increase. Let's talk about why that's happening. And then finally, the most important piece, and this is the part you really got to get into, what we can do about it. And there are a lot of different options to address that cost and still have the benefits of Medicare supplements that you like. But before we get there, let's talk about why it's happening. All right, why are those Medigap plans going up almost 20% now? There are a lot of pieces that are figuring into this. First of all, there's a whole period during COVID where the cost side of healthcare, in terms of what was showing up at the health carriers, was actually reduced. People weren't going in and getting things done. They're delaying things, putting things off for a good 3 to 4 years. And we're all kind of aware of that. So some of that is a catch up where, look, health issues didn't go away. They kind of waited. And now people are getting knee replacements. They're getting things done. They're going in for visits and doctor checkups. All of that stuff kind of got bunched up and it's happening now. And there's usually a 12 to 18 month delay from when the expenses hit a health carrier and then it shows up in your premium. So what we're seeing in July is actually from 2024 and even going back a little bit further. It's just all showing now. That's one piece. The second piece is the sheer volume of healthcare that's happening right now and the inflation in that side of things is through the roof. So Medicare can put pressure on costs per issue or per surgery. But if there are more and more surgeries that are happening, they can't really control that. Unfortunately, we all know someone who's had a cardiovascular issue. There's a lot of cancer issues out there across the board and for people with Medicare. That's ramped up over the last 4 or 5 years, and we'll leave that for another discussion board. We're just looking at the cost side of that, and it's definitely hitting, and those are expensive services, right? You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even with Medicare's ability to keep cost containment on, it's still a lot of money that's starting to show over the last year or two. Again, cardiovascular, cancer, those are big ones, and we see it all the time with our clients, unfortunately, and even with friends and family that we know. So that's another piece of it. There's a A third aspect here in that most people who are newer to Medicare pick the G plan. It's by far the most popular plan. It's 99% of enrollments we have for people who are new because you have discounts when you first start off on the G plan. The G plan had this weird thing where the cost stayed low, as we talked about, and then they shot up to make a baseline of where they were before COVID. We're not seeing that as much on the N plan, meaning they went down and then they kind of stayed under the trajectory they should have been at. So it's interesting. We'll talk about that in the next section. But know that the G plan is the bulk of what people enroll on, and it definitely saw this catch up in terms of medical expenses to the carrier, and we're seeing that in our premiums up to 20%. That's the bad news. Now let's talk about the good news. A lot of things you probably don't know about because you're probably not going to hear about it from your existing agent unless they're a fantastic agent, because it means more work from them. And you're definitely not going to hear about it from the carrier. Let's talk about what we can do about this. Hey there, we're about to show you how we save someone in California $780 a year for the exact same G plan. If this is helpful information you can use, please like and subscribe. We'll continue to bring this up-to-date info you can take advantage of. Let's go back to it. All right, let's strategize about this now to reduce that cost. And if we do it correctly, no effect to you in terms of how your plan actually works. First of all, shop the market. Many people get on a Medicare supplement at age 65 or when they lose employer coverage, and they love the way it works. They can see all their doctors, they refer themselves out, they're not locked into a network, and they think that if they make a change, they're going to lose that. You will not lose that. If you move to another Medicare supplement, the networks are identical. The benefits are identical within a plan type, meaning if you go from G plan to G plan, they're the same. And we only quote the major carriers that are priced well. That way we know customer service is the same anyway, because Medicare dictates if something is covered or not the carrier. They listen to Medicare, and Medicare makes the same rules regardless of the carrier. Shop the market. All we need is zip code and date of birth, and we can run a quick quote across the major carriers for you in minutes. For that person who is 70 years old, where the premium was $65 more than the better price plan that we were able to find for them. Identical plan, $65. And that was based on the old Shield rate, not the new one that's coming up in July. So there are better rates out there. You just got to go double check. We can do that for you, zero cost for our assistance. That's the first step. Also know that with California, we have what's called the birthday rule, meaning you can go to a same level plan or lesser regardless of health around your birthday. Now you can apply for a Medigap Medicare supplement any time of the year, subject to health, but around your birthday, they don't look at health history questions at all. So we can take advantage of that if we need it. Right now, let's see if you're overpaying for the same plan. Also, the G Extra was very popular with Blue Shield. It basically added in a whole suite of other benefits. The big ones being vision, there were hearing aids, and gym membership. There's some other things that can be out there depending on your area, but those were the big ones. We need to look at the pricing of that versus a standard G plan because vision's easy to get with VSP. The gym membership, a lot of the other Medigap plans offer that with lower rates. And then the hearing aid depends on whether or not you use it. A lot of people say, well, I like the vision, I like the gym membership, and maybe Teladoc. We can get a lot of those things separately and still bring down your costs. Finally, we need to look at the G versus the N plan. That's the next second popular plan out there. Basically, it has copays for doctor visits to your G plan. And there's a difference on excess, and we cover this all in another video, but we can see that pricing drop significantly. And remember, when we looked at the cost catch-up from over COVID, G caught up. The N plan didn't and went down and kind of stayed lower. So that may be a way to really reduce our costs and still have the things we like about Medicare supplements. So that's our landscape. Let's run the numbers right away. And then check out our other videos on how to save on Social Security and how to save maybe on your Part B premium to make sure you're getting the best value.